right. So we're diving into a way to make movement a consistent part of your life. And I know what you're thinking. I know it sounds like a total drag, like another thing to add to the to-do list. But what if it wasn't about crazy workouts or becoming a gym junkie? What if it was about finding your way to move your body that actually works for you? That's what's got me intrigued about this episode.
Yeah, what I think is so refreshing about this episode is that it completely flips the script. It's not about intensity or like going hard all the time. It's about finding your rhythm and making movement a natural part of your day, just like, brushing your teeth or listening to this deep dive.
I feel like I'm always starting and stopping with exercise.
Yeah.
I get like super motivated for like a couple weeks, and then life gets in the way and I'm back at square one. So color me skeptical, but I am curious to hear how this episode tackles that whole consistency thing.
I think that's a really common challenge, and the core idea that this episode is presenting is that lasting change comes from those small, consistent actions rather than those like bursts of motivation that kind of fizzle out. So it's a mindset shift from I have to I want to. And it all starts with step one, finding your why.
Okay, I've heard that before. But honestly, sometimes it feels a little fluffy. Like, find your why. Yeah, easier said than done. How does this episode make it more concrete?
Well, in this episode, it's not just about like picking some random goal. It digs into the importance of finding a why that really resonates with you personally. So think about what you truly want to get out of being more active. Is it about having more energy to play with your kids? Or maybe it's about feeling more confident in your clothes. Or maybe you want to be able to climb a flight of stairs without getting winded. The key is to tap into something that truly matters to you.
Yeah, I'm starting to see how that can make a difference. I think if I'm just going through the motions, it's easy to lose steam. But if it's connected to something deeper, something I actually care about, yeah, maybe that could be the fuel that I need to keep going. So once you've got that why locked in, what's next?
Well, then step two gets really practical. It's all about building momentum with what they call tiny habits. And don't let the name fool you, because these small actions can have a huge impact over time. So we're talking, 5 minutes of stretching in the morning, or taking the stairs instead of the elevator, or even parking farther away from the store so you get in a few extra steps.
Okay, I could totally get on board with that. 5 minutes? Even I can manage that. But is that really enough to make a difference? I mean, 5 minutes of stretching doesn't exactly scream fitness transformation, does it?
Right, and I think that's the thing. It's not about like instant gratification. It's about building a foundation. Each tiny habit is a win, and those wins start to add up. Plus, starting small makes it less intimidating and more likely that you'll stick with it. So the goal is to create a positive feedback loop where you're consistently showing up for yourself, even if it's just for a few minutes each day.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like tricking my brain into thinking, hey, this isn't so bad. I can totally handle this.
Yeah.
So we've got our why. We're building momentum with the tiny habits. What's step 3 all about?
Step 3 is where we start to formalize things a bit by creating a movement routine. And the episode really emphasizes the importance of scheduling your movement, just like you would any other important appointment. But it's not about becoming a slave to a rigid schedule.
Hold on. I thought this whole approach was supposed to be about flexibility and fitting movement into my life. Now it sounds like I need to block off hours at the gym.
No, not at all. It's more about being intentional about it. So maybe it's like a 30-minute walk on your lunch break 3 times a week, or maybe it's committing to a yoga class every Saturday morning. The key is to find a rhythm that works for your schedule and stick to it as best you can. But remember, life happens. If you miss a day or two, it's not the end of the world. Just adjust and get back on track as soon as you can.
Okay, that takes the pressure off.
Yeah.
I like the idea of having a plan, but with some built-in wiggle room for those inevitable crazy days. So we're scheduling our movement. What's next?
Well, step 4 is where it gets really fun. It's all about making movement something that you actually enjoy. So this is where you can ditch the shoulds and tap into what truly lights you up.
Okay, so we're talking about finding activities that we're actually excited to do, not just the ones that we think we should be doing.
Right, and there are so many options out there. I mean, it could be dancing, hiking, swimming, rock climbing, you name it. The episode really encourages you to experiment and find what sparks joy for you.
I love that. It's not about forcing yourself to do something you hate. It's about finding that thing that makes you want to move your body. And I think that's a game changer.
Definitely. And I think when you find those activities that you genuinely enjoy, it stops feeling like a chore and starts feeling like a gift, something you look forward to.
Totally. And I think that's what this whole approach is about. It's about shifting our mindset from seeing movement as a burden to seeing it as a celebration of what our bodies can do.
I love that. And I think that's a beautiful way to sum up this first part of our deep dive. Welcome back.
So we've covered finding our why, building tiny habits, and creating a routine that actually fits into our lives. But I gotta admit, sometimes it feels like a lot of effort just to move my body a little bit each day. I mean, is it really worth all the hype? What's the payoff here?
You know, that's what I love about this episode is that it doesn't just tell you to do something. It explains why it matters. And those benefits of consistent movement go way beyond just like fitting into your skinny jeans. We're talking about long-term health, both physical and mental, and a boost in confidence that can spill over into every area of your life.
Okay, now you've got my attention. Tell me more about these life-changing benefits.
Well, for starters, consistent movement builds strength. And I'm not talking about becoming a bodybuilder. We're talking about functional strength, the kind that helps you move through your day with ease and grace. You know, like effortlessly picking up your toddler, carrying groceries up the stairs, or just like getting up and down from a chair without groaning.
I would definitely love to say goodbye to those backaches. What else can consistent movement do for me?
Well, another key benefit is increased confidence. When you stick to a movement routine, even a small one, you prove to yourself that you can follow through on your commitments. And that sense of accomplishment can be incredibly empowering.
I get that. It's like that hell yeah feeling you get when you finally nail that yoga pose or run a mile without stopping.
Exactly. And that confidence can spill over into other areas of your life too, giving you the courage to try new things or go after your goals with more gusto.
So we're stronger, more confident. What else? Don't leave me hanging.
Of course, we can't forget about the big one, health and longevity. This episode really hammers home the point that daily movement can help you live a longer, healthier life.
Okay, so we're talking about reducing the risk of heart disease, diabetes, some types of cancer, even osteoporosis.
Yes, all of that. But it goes even deeper than that. Consistent movement also has a profound impact on your mental well-being. Studies have shown that regular physical activity can reduce stress, improve sleep, boost mood, and can even help with anxiety and depression.
Wow, that's amazing. I knew exercise was good for you, but I never really realized just how much it could impact my mental health.
It's truly powerful, and beyond all the science-backed benefits, there's also just the simple joy of feeling good in your own skin.
You mean that feeling of increased energy, better digestion, even just feeling more comfortable and at ease in my body?
Exactly. It's those subtle but powerful shifts that can make a huge difference in your overall quality of life. And it's honestly one of the most rewarding aspects of making movement a consistent part of your routine.
Okay, I'm sold. Strength, confidence, a longer, healthier life, and feeling amazing in my body. Sign me up. But what about those days when motivation just disappears, or I hit a plateau? Does this approach really work then?
Well, that's the beauty of this episode. It acknowledges that life happens and that consistency isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up even when it's tough.
So it's more about progress over perfection.
Exactly. It's about embracing the journey, celebrating the small wins, and giving yourself grace when you stumble. The episode emphasizes that even if you miss a day or two or even a week, it doesn't mean you failed. Just adjust your plan as needed and get back on track when you can.
That takes a lot of the pressure off. I'm definitely someone who tends to go all in or all out. So I love that this approach encourages a more sustainable and, dare I say, enjoyable way to incorporate movement into my life.
That's the key. It's about finding a rhythm that works for you, not against you. And when you find that sweet spot, you're more likely to stick with it for the long haul.
This is all starting to click for me. It's not about punishing myself with intense workouts or striving for some unrealistic ideal. It's about treating my body with kindness, finding ways to move that bring me joy, and celebrating every step I take towards a healthier and happier me.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Now, before we move on to the final part of our deep dive, let's recap some of the key takeaways for our listeners. What stands out to you?
Well, I think the most important takeaway is that consistent movement is an investment in your well-being, both physically and mentally. It's not just about looking good, it's about feeling good inside and out.
Absolutely. And remember, consistency doesn't mean perfection. It's about finding what works for you, embracing those tiny habits, and celebrating every step you take toward a more active and fulfilling life.
I'm really curious to hear about this challenge this episode ends with. You mentioned it earlier, but I'd love to hear more details. What are our listeners being challenged to do?
Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into making movement a consistent part of life. And I'm ready to hear about this challenge you mentioned. What's the big call to action?
You know, it's actually super simple, but really powerful. The episode encourages listeners to commit to just one small movement goal this week.
Okay, I like where this is going. Small, manageable. I can get behind that. But what kind of goal are we talking about?
Anything that gets you moving. It could be 5 minutes of stretching each morning, a walk around the block after dinner, a quick dance party with your kids, or even just taking the stairs instead of the elevator a couple times a day. The key is to choose something that feels doable and, dare I say, enjoyable. I was going to say I'm all for pushing myself, but if it feels like a chore, I'm way less likely to stick with it.
Yeah.
So how do I choose the right tiny habit? I'm feeling a little overwhelmed by all the possibilities.
Well, that's where connecting back to your why comes in. Remember that deep down reason we talked about earlier? The thing that's truly motivating you to move your body? Let that be your guide.
Right. So if my why is about having more energy to play with my kids, then maybe my tiny habit is like a quick game of tag in the backyard after work. Or if it's about reducing stress, maybe it's 5 minutes of deep breathing and stretching before bed.
Exactly. It's all about finding what resonates with you and your unique goals. There's no right or wrong answer here.
This is reminding me of that quote, "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." It feels so much less daunting when you break it down like that.
And what's really fascinating is that even these seemingly small actions can have a ripple effect on your overall well-being.
Hold on, explain that to me. How can like a 5-minute walk really make a difference?
Well, when you start experiencing those positive benefits of consistent movement, whether it's increased energy, a boost in mood, or feeling less stressed, it creates this amazing positive feedback loop. You feel good, so you want to move more, and that momentum builds over time.
It's like that saying, success breeds success.
Yeah,
The more you show up for yourself, even in small ways, the more motivated you become to keep going.
exactly. And that's how those tiny habits transform into a sustainable lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's not about forcing yourself to do something you hate. It's about finding joy in movement and letting that joy fuel your journey.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought-provoking question. Thinking about your why and all the steps we've explored today, what's one tiny habit you could commit to this week to kind of kickstart your journey towards consistent movement?
Yeah, what's that one small step that you can take that will make you feel successful and set you on the path to experiencing all those amazing benefits we've talked about?
And remember, there's no pressure, no judgment, just a genuine invitation to connect with your body and start moving in a way that feels good for you.
Because even the tiniest action can have a profound impact on your long-term health and happiness.
So what will your first step be? We're cheering you on every step of the way. Until next time, keep exploring, keep moving, and keep diving deep into the knowledge that empowers you to live your best life.